What's up, Dragon Brew? Today we're going to go over all of the cards for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle that got previewed in the weekly MTG video, and we're going to follow that up by covering all of the known rares and mythics to this point. So this is going to be a long one. I'm going to try to shrink it down as best I can, but you might want to grab a drink, download this, come back to it later, because there's a lot to consume, but I'm going to try to be quick with each card. But today we're going to go through this because it looks like it was a pretty long preview video, or it's about 10 minutes, so I'm going to try not to take too long, but we are going to go over all the cards. They did open showing us all of these different basic lands, which is cool because you get two versions, one that's like locations and the other that have the turtles kind of traversing the city, which I think is pretty neat. And then the first card they showed us was Turtles in Time. It is 7 mana, so 5 blue for a sorcery. Return all creatures to their owner's hands. Each player may shuffle their hand and graveyard into their library. Then each player who does draw 7, exile Turtles in Time. I hate this card. Generally, I just dislike cards like that. It's a lot of like board reset, the time twister, draw 7, blah, blah. But hey, it does cost 7 at least, so there is that. Though, as we've seen even in Standard, there's a lot of fast mana, so I would not be surprised to see this card get some amount of play in some mid-rangey, kind of control or combo-y sort of deck that has a way to ramp up. I think there's some spots for this. Also could be kind of an annoying card in Commander because it gives you some redundancy on those types of abilities, as we have, I don't know, now like 8 or 9 cards that could probably do something like this that would be reasonable. So yeah, I don't know. Interesting card, cool art, but not my fave so far. But yet, we've only seen lands in this, so we'll see. Now, they did do something really cool here with the collector boosters. They made, hey, a new subscriber. We got the Ninja Turtles in these Eastman original artwork type things with the gold border, with the signature kind of on them. So these are likely going to be very expensive. Would not be surprised if this is one of the chase cards that are super pricey. So wouldn't be shocked by this at all. Keep your eye out for these. They're only going to be in collector boosters. We did get our first Raphael Tough Turtle. So it's 1 in a red for a 1/3, and it has Alliance. Whenever another creature you control enters, Raphael deals 1 damage to target opponent. We already have cards like this in Standard. We have a 1/3. We have War Leader's Call. There's some other creature as well. So this will be the 4th ability like this, I believe, that's currently Standard legal. If you're playing something just generating a bunch of tokens or whatever, this is probably a spot where you could use this type of card. And going to be easy to get your hand on with it being common. The one thing they did mention is each Ninja Turtle, actually, I think each of the major characters are going to have 4 different versions, but for sure all the Ninja Turtles are 1 for each rarity. So we'll quickly go over these, but the uncommon Raphael is Most Attitude. It is 3 in a red for 4/3. Legendary creature, obviously it has Menace. Also has Alliance. When another creature you control enters, you may exile the top card of your library. Whenever it attacks, until the end of turn, you may play a card exiled with Raphael. So this one's kind of interesting because you don't automatically get the card, and you don't automatically get to cast the card, right? You have to play something else, or at least have something else enter, so that you can get the card, and then you have to attack to be able to play the card. So I think for limited, this is kind of an interesting idea. I don't know if that'll find room in Standard, just because it's too conditional to get access to the card, and we have other red cards already in Standard that just give us the cards for free, basically. Raphael, the Night Watcher, however, is 2 red for a 2/3. This is the rare version. It has Sneak, which is 1 red. You can cast a spell for the Sneak cost. If you do, you return an unblocked attacker you control to hand during the Declare Blocker step. And he enters tapped and attacking. And then attacking creatures you control have double strike. I mean, I think that even without having Sneak, I think this card would be borderline playable, just to give everything double strike. But the fact that you can do it with Sneak, even if we're talking about, maybe in the same deck as the smaller Raphael, you're doing these tokens, deal damage, whatever, and then you go to get an attack in, and then you bounce some small creature or a token or whatever, and then now everything's dealing double damage to finish your opponent off. I think that's a realistic possibility. So it's neat how these kind of work together. And then Raphael Ninja Destroyer is 2 red. Oh, interesting. There's 2 4/4 in casting cost. But 2 red for a 4/4. Must be blocked if able. It has Enrage. Whenever Raphael is dealt damage, Add that much red mana until end of turn. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases in. Now, this is interesting because it could be played alongside Bayo that also lets you bank mana that you can then spend the mana to deal damage to your opponent or whatever if Bayo dies. So that's kind of neat. So, or I guess Electro and Paper, I believe it is. But yeah, this is actually an interesting card. I don't know how strong it'll be, but a 4/4 for 4 is kind of nice. And your opponent has to block it, which is another thing. They can't just let it through. So yeah, this will be an interesting one to see how it shapes up. Oh, also, before we move on, I want to point out we've started doing a single card strategy series. So you might want to check that out on the channel. And we'll be doing some Ninja Turtle cards, getting those out over the next 7 to 10 days. So if you want to get ways on how to use some of these Ninja Turtle cards, be sure to subscribe because those videos will have a lot of good information. But Donatello Mutant Mechanic is 3 in a blue. It's obviously a legendary creature. You tap it, you put 3 +1/+1 counters on target artifact you control. If it isn't a creature, it becomes a robot in addition to its other types. You activate it as a sorcery. When an artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on up to one other target creature or artifact or creature you control. This is kind of an interesting card. It's a 4 mana 3/5. I mean, it is mythic. But if you're playing something that's already putting counters on stuff, like Tezzeret is another thing I can think of that does that, right? That lets you turn a artifact into a 0/0 with some counters on it. There's a few different ways you could take advantage of this. I don't know where it would go just yet, but this is definitely one that's a candidate for the single card strategy series to try to figure out the best way to use this, because this is very cool. And not only that, when your creatures die, or your artifacts at least die, you get to move those counters onto something else. So you don't even lose the work you put in, which is very cool. And then we have a combo, Don and Leo, problem solvers. 3 double hybrid for Azorius, so 3 blue, white, your choice. We do have a Vigilance 4/6 creature. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target artifact you control and up to 1 target creature you control. Then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control. Now, this is actually really powerful. There's a lot of stuff you could do with this. Obviously, any of the enter the battlefield triggers that get you more tokens, get you more life, but also, something like a synthesizer deck, right? That you could exile an artifact and return it and get more bodies, right? Something like that could work. There's some cool stuff you could probably do with this card. And interestingly, it's a rare and it's costed mana-wise less than some of the other cards we've seen with this type of ability. And this lets you blink 2 things, which is very interesting. Now, one of them is a creature and one is an artifact, so you may only be blinking one thing. But yeah, there's a lot of upside to this type of card. Ralph and Mikey, Troublemakers. This is a 5 and 2 Gruul mana, so 7 mana for a 7/7 with Trample and Haste. Whenever they attack, reveal the top card of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card on the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest of the bottom of your library in random order. And this is only a rare, not a mythic. My goodness, this card is cool. I would say this about this card. There are so many ways to make a lot of mana right now. It's not very difficult to get to 7. When you're talking about Llanowar Elves and Badger Mole Cubs and Bloom Tenders, right? Like, there's a bunch of things you could do with this. And just getting a free creature is pretty cool. Now, sometimes you're going to hit one of those small creatures, right? So that is the downside to this. But Haste and Trample is pretty cool. Even if you want to just sit on something to wait for your opponent to sweep the board and then, get in there for 7, I could see this even as a 1 or 2 of in a few lists. The Turtle Van. It is 3 generic mana for a 4/4 vehicle. Whenever this attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature that crewed it this turn. Then if that creature is a mutant, a ninja, or a turtle, double the number of +1/+1 counters on it, and it only crews for 1. This is pretty neat. If I was playing a +1/+1 counters deck, this probably is fine. And as a bonus, if it happens to be any of those other abilities or other types, it does get you extra counters, which is cool. I don't even know if this needs to be played in a turtle deck. This one might be decent in a thing that wants to play +1/+1 counters. Or just grow your creature, right? Your Llanowar Elf's you don't need it for mana anymore. Put it in the van and put some counters on it. Krang. We knew there was going to be some Krang, so we have Utram Warlord. 9 mana for a 9/9 flying, trample, indestructible haste. Other artifact creatures you control have flying, trample, indestructible haste. Whoo, boy. You know, there's a few different ways. This is another good one for the single card strategy thing. There's a lot of ways you could trick this onto the battlefield. There are ways to make token copies of this that would have the same abilities. There's a lot of things you could do with this, I think. Now, am I going to say it's top tier good? Not necessarily. But could you have some fun with this type of card on the arena ladder? I think you really could. There's some sweet stuff you're going to be able to do with this for sure. April O'Neil, Hacktivist, 3 and a blue for a 1/5. Human scientist, at the beginning of your end step, draw a card for each card type among spells you've cast this turn. Draw a card for each card type among spells you've cast this turn. So if you played a creature, you draw a card, and if you played an instant, you would draw a second card, basically. Man, I don't know how good this is. I mean, it's 4 mana for a 1/5. I mean, it has to be costed more. Otherwise, just like play a thing, draw a card, play a thing, draw a card, right? So it makes sense. But man, I don't know. A 1/5 for 4, and then you still have to play stuff to get an advantage from it. It's a little tough. It's a little tough. I don't know how excited I am about this one. Hopefully, this is one that I feel like I want to be wrong on, because if I'm wrong, it means there's probably some sweet deck that's playing a bunch of different card types and just getting them into play and drawing like 3 cards a turn or something. And that could be kind of cool. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Splinter, Radical Rat. 1 and 2 Azorius mana. So 3 mana for a 2/4. If an ability a ninja creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. You can pay 1 and a blue. Target ninja can't be blocked this turn. Yeah, this is just generally cool, right? And I don't even think this necessarily has... Well, I won't say it won't have an impact in Standard, because we're getting a bunch of Ninja Turtles. But I could see a world where older formats that are playing the ninjutsu decks that already play a lot of ninjas, or you want to make something unblockable to make sure you can sneak something in, this could be the right card for that kind of deck. Or even as a commander thing, right? If you want to play ninjas, this could be very cool. So I think it might have a minimal impact on Standard, but could have some impact elsewhere. Casey Jones, Vigilante, 1 red for a 4/3 human berserker. When it enters, draw 3 cards. At the beginning of your next upkeep, discard 3 cards at random. This is fun, right? Because you can just play creature, whatever, burn something. Say turn 4-ish, you play it, you reload your hand because you're probably down to 1 or 2 cards. Next turn, you play as many things as you can, discard the difference. Probably what's going to happen here. Though, there are some worlds where maybe this goes into a mayhem type deck, right? Like you want to risk discarding something so you could play some of the stuff. Like, I don't know. There's some neat things here that you could do with this, though. This is kind of a fun card. And it is a 4/3 for 3. That's the other thing. Cowabunga, just a singular green mana. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a mutant, ninja, turtle, or land card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library random order. Yeah, this is just commune with Ninja Turtles, basically. We have Slash, Reptile, Rampager. Wow, you know what? I don't even think I remember Slash as a character. 3 red for a 7/5. Whenever another creature you control enters, Slash deals 2 damage to each opponent. Whenever Slash attacks, create a 2/2 red mutant creature token. Slash is crazy. So 5 mana for a 7/5, and then anytime something else enters, you get to deal 2 to the opponent. But also when it attacks, it makes an additional 2/2. This is just a cool card, man. Like, that's so much for 5 mana. 5 for a 7/5, attack, make a 2/2, and then just bonus damage anyway when something enters the battlefield. I mean, it's 5 mana, obviously, so it would be a little slower, but that's a cool card. Raphael, Tough Turtle, we talked about this. They're just kind of using this to go over the alliance mechanic. Ninja Teen, 2 and a black. So 3 mana for a class saga here. Or actually, it's not even a saga. It's a level up enchantment. It's a class. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses a life. So we already know a bunch of decks this is going to go into. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have menace for 2, or for an additional 1 to go to level 3. Creature cards in your graveyard have sneak 4, so you pay 3 and a black. You may cast creature spells from your graveyard using their sneak ability. Yeah, this card. This is cool for any of the Sephiroth type decks, the Raise the Past type decks, any of the things that just want to do the ping and drain your opponent, because we now have, like with this, I think there'll be 5 cards that do that in standard, that you can jam all into one deck with a bunch of small creatures. Like, there's a bunch. Yeah, this card, there's a lot of people going, even if you just play old aristocrat decks that just want to sacrifice your things and drain your opponent's life total, this is going to be pretty cool for those. All right, we have a Michelangelo Improviser, 3 and a green for a 4/4. Has sneak of 2 green. Whenever Michelangelo deals combat damage to a player, you may put a creature card or land card from your hand onto the battlefield. This is going to be scary and fun. Like, fun to play, scary on the opposition, because this is the thing where you're like, all right, I don't want to block this, I don't know, Death Touch or, Tiny Bones or whatever. Like, I'll just take the 1. And you're like, nope, you're going to have 4, and then here comes another creature. Right? Actually, here's what's crazy. I just realized you could sneak, return a thing to the hand. Michelangelo hits them, and then with his ability on the stack, you can just put into play the thing you picked up. Oh, that's pretty silly. All right, then. That's a thing that happens. But all right, why not? Let's see what else we got. Shredder's Technique, 2 and a black. It's an uncommon. It also has sneak for 1 black mana. Interesting. So spells can have sneak, whereas ninjutsu was only on creatures. Interesting. So destroy target creature or enchantment. If an enchantment was destroyed this way, you lose 2 life. All right, this just seems fine. It's a decent removal spell that can be played in the small creature decks. Nothing wrong with that. The Last Rodent's Technique, 3 and a white. Also has sneak for 1 and a white. Create 3 1/1 white Ninja Turtle spirit creature tokens. If this spell sneak was paid, they enter tapped and attacking. Ooh. Again, if you're playing some type of token decks or something, this could be super annoying. Right? You attack with some little 1/1. It doesn't get blocked. You're like, great. Here's 3 1/1s. Right? They all trigger the Raphael or whatever. Like, yeah, this is an interesting one. Krang and Shredder, 4 and 2 Dimir mana for a 6/7. Whenever Krang and Shredder enter or attack, each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. When it enters or attacks, each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. Okay. And then disappear. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent left the battlefield under your control this turn, you may cast a card exiled with Krang and Shredder without paying its mana cost. Oh, that's neat. So if you attack, let's say with anything, and your opponent, your opponent then has to exile a card, right? But then if that thing gets blocked and dies, well, then now you get to play the exiled thing for free. Now, sometimes it's going to be a land or whatever, but that does make for some interesting game states. And this is whenever this enters or attacks, each opponent exiles a card. So only this thing enters or attacks, not when you attack with just anything. I mean, it is a 6/7 creature, though. It is very large. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think we have a lot of cards in that space, though, right now that are in that 5 or 6 mana range where it's exile some number of cards from the opponent, get some number of cards from the opponent in some way, and then you can play them with various costs or not. And those don't get a lot of play, so this one probably won't either, but it is a cool card. Mutant Chain Reaction, 2 and a green. It's a sorcery, destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Create a mutagen token. Mutagen tokens say pay 1, tap it, sacrifice it, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. What I like about this is that in a deck where you already care about +1/+1 counters, or counters in general, you can now play this as, all right, it's not just an enchantment or artifact removal card. It actually has another purpose, which is kind of cool. It's 3 mana, so not the most exciting thing at sorcery speed, but it's an option. And then you have the Ooze, which is fun. It has cute little baby turtles on it before they got big. It's 2 colorless mana, or 2 generic mana. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it leaves the battlefield, create a mutagen token for each 1/1 counter. Wow! Exile target card from your graveyard, create a mutagen token. This will be fun. Just your +1/+1s, you're just generating more and more +1/+1s. Like, that's kind of fun. I don't know if it's any good for something like Standard, but there's some sweet stuff you could do with this in Commander. Oh, they did also show off some of the, I guess, special guest cards or whatever we call them now. And there's some pretty good ones. This is Brainstorm, Underworld Breach, Waves of Aggression, and Doubling Season, which Doubling Seasons are always popular and expensive. And this one's going to have the Ninja Turtles on it with some older style artwork. This, All Will Be One, such a cool piece of artwork from the last Ronin Ninja Turtle book, which, yeah, I have that over here actually. It's this cover. It's that same artwork, which is very cool. So it's awesome to see they got to use that in the game somewhere because it's really sweet. Also, a really cool story. If you haven't ever read it, you should pick it up. It's older. You'll probably find a deal on it somewhere. Arcbound Ravager, also a sweet piece of artwork in here. Cool reprint as well. And then also some sweet alternate art, some borderless ones. These will probably be the rare chase inserts. But yeah, really just sweet artwork all the way through this set. And then a couple more here. Donatello Gadget Master, 2 and a blue for a 3/2 with sneak of 1 and a blue. Whenever Donatello deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control. So I think this is really cool and kind of plays well with the other Donatello as well, to be able to copy artifacts that you may or may not be wanting to put counters on. And then we talked about Raphael Night Watcher earlier, gives everything double strike. Also, if you get all the cards together, you make the giant image, which is always very cool. And I figured while we're at it, I'm just going to go ahead and knock out all of the day one previews so we can get these all into one video. So, Turtle Lair. It is a land that taps for a colorless. It can tap to add 1 mana of any color, spend that mana only to cast ninja or turtle spells, and you can pay 3 and tap it. Target ninja or turtle can't be blocked this turn. Obviously, if you're playing some reasonable number of ninjas or turtles, this card's going to be great to play. Escape Tunnel. We already know what this does. Sacrifice land, search a library for a basic, or you can sacrifice it. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Kind of makes sense. It's a tunnel card. It's Ninja Turtles. I get why it's included. Everything Pizza. 2 generic mana for a food. When it enters, search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. You can pay 2 colorless and Wooburg mana, so white, blue, black, red, green. Sacrifice this artifact. Target player gains 3 life and draws a card. Each of your opponents discards a card. This artifact deals 3 damage to any target. Put 3 +1/+1 counters on 1 target creature. If you can make it happen, it's kind of a cool ability. I don't know, maybe you play it in some Bloom Tinder Leyline deck or something. I don't know, but it's neat, but it's an uncommon, so, it kind of tells you what they expect it to do. Lessons from Life. 2 green blue for a sorcery. Draw 3 cards. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. That's just a reasonable card. This is something that could probably get played. It's draw 3 and ramp. Why not? Lita, Little Orphan Amphibian. 1 and a white for a 2/1. It has Alliance. When another creature you control enters, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on Lita. Create a food. Or scry 1. This is solid, actually. Nothing too crazy, just generally decent. Playable. Mona Lisa, Science Geek, 2 and a green for a 1/3 with reach. Add 1 mana of any color where X is Mona Lisa's power. This could be kind of fun. We've had cards like this in the past where you put counters on them or it taps for the number of counters or equal to its power. There's probably some fun stuff we could do with this. The downside is it does cost 3, and usually you want your mana creatures to be 1 or 2 mana. So that alone is probably going to keep it from being played. but it's neat if you are trying to do something based around mutants. Shark Shredder, Killer Clone, 2 black black for a 4/4 with sneak of 3 black black. So the sneak is a higher cost than its regular casting cost. It does have first strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put up to 1 target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control and enters tapped and attacking that player. That is why the sneak costs more. So you get one of their creatures from their graveyard and put it onto the battlefield and get to hit them with it. That's something. Makes this card quite scary, actually. Like, we're going to be in a world where anything that goes unblocked, you're going to be holding your breath for a second. But yeah, this one's kind of wild. We have Chrome Dome, 2 generic mana for a robot ninja. Other artifacts you control get +1/+0. You can pay 5, create a token that's a copy of another target artifact you control. That token gains haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. There's a couple of things interesting about this. It's only a 2 mana, 1/3 that does pump your other artifacts. And there's a fair amount of artifact creatures we can play, and a lot of stuff in standard that's still good with artifacts or artifact creatures. But also, you can make the token during your opponent's end step, and it'll survive until the beginning of the next end step, which would be your turn. So there's some interesting stuff you can probably do with this, not to mention any of the artifacts that die and replace themselves with a token, like Nesting Bot or something like that. So there's probably some neat things you can do with this. Northampton Farm. It taps for a colorless. You can pay 1 and tap it, exile target creature you own. Pay 2 and tap it, exile this land, return a creature card exiled with this land to the battlefield under your control. Return each other card exiled with this card to its owner's hand. This is a fun card. So basically, anytime a creature, let's say, would die to whatever, combat, sweeper, whatever, you can just pay 1, exile the card. And then at any point in the future, you could just pay 2 and be like, all right, I want one of these onto the battlefield, and then I get the others into my hand that I could just play them again. That's kind of sweet, actually. Random, but pretty cool. Weathermaker. 3 generic mana for an artifact, Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, put a charge counter on this card. You can tap it for 1 mana of any color. You can remove 2 charge counters to add 2 colorless mana. You can tap it, remove 3 charge counters from this artifact to deal 3 damage to any target. I mean, I think there's just too many better things we're doing with Landfall right now. Like, I don't think this is terrible, but just probably not something you're going to be excited to play in a lot of cases, I think. Agent Bishop, mana in black, 2 and a white for a 1/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Oh man. A 3 mana 1/2 isn't that exciting, but the fact that you can put a +1/+1 counter on 2 things, including itself, so it could be a 3 mana 2/3 and something else gets a 1/1, right? So this card's kind of cool. I could see this getting some play in a few different builds, potentially. The 3 mana 1/2 is a little tough, and you have to get the combat to get the ability. But that aside, the ability is very good. Armagon, Future Shark. 6 black, so 8 mana for a 9/6 with flash. When it enters, destroy up to 3 target creatures. Well, this might be one of the better reanimation spells, or targets. Like, it just enters, wipes out 3 of your opponent's things. Like, funny that it has flash randomly, but, flavor for the card, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, 8 mana, 9/6, okay, sure. Occasionally, I guess you'll need to actually cast it. But realistically, because it doesn't say when it enters if it was cast, it just enters and destroys stuff. That's actually kind of powerful. Improvised Arsenal, 1 in a red. It's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. You can pay 4 in a red, create a token that's a copy of this equipment, and it equips for 1 red. What I like about this card is it is cheap to equip. It's 2 mana to play, 1 red to equip. Granted, it does have to be specifically red mana, so that's a thing. But even down the road, you can just like spend mana to make copies. So when you finally do get something, it's just going to be huge. So like probably could get played. It's one of the better equipment cards we've seen lately. Kitsune, Dragon's Daughter, 4 blue for a 6/6 vigilance. Whenever it enters or deals combat damage to a player, you may exchange control of 2 other target creatures controlled by different players. It does have vigilance, which is kind of nice. It's a 6 mana 6/6, so it's not bad. Your opponent kind of always wants to block it. This is one of those ones that, like, if it gets through, the potential is high for what it could do. But I don't know if this is going to get played in standard. Leatherhead, Swamp Stalker. It is 2 green for a 5/4 trample. It enters with a hexproof counter on her. Whenever Leatherhead deals damage to a player, you may remove a counter from her. When you do, destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. So you get a 5/4 hexproof, but if you manage to damage the opponent, then you can remove the hexproof option to destroy an artifact or an enchantment. I don't hate this in the sense that it's a card that allows you to have some form of artifact or enchantment removal without having to play a separate card. You can still keep playing your creatures. So if you like playing mono green aggro or Gruul aggro, like, this becomes a real option. And it does have trample, so the likelihood of connecting is fairly high. Leonardo Sewer Samurai, 3 and a white for a 3/3 with sneak of 2 white, has double strike. During your turn, you may cast creature spells with power or toughness 1 or less from your graveyard. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. Yeah, this is just solid, right? Sneaking in a 3/3 double striker means you're going to deal 6, pretty much. And you get to replay stuff from your graveyard. Yeah, this is solid. Like, crazy good? I don't think so, but definitely playable. Madam Null, Power Broker, 2 and a black for a 1/3 Demon Advisor. It has Death Touch. Whenever another creature you control enters, you may pay life equal to its power. If you do, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. I like this from a flavor perspective. This is cool. So 3 mana, 1/3 with Death Touch. So nothing great, but your opponent necessarily doesn't want to attack into it. But then you're like, all right, I'm going to play this 3/3, and I'm just going to pay 3 life. And now it's a 6/6 or whatever. Honestly, this kind of works in the black-white life gain decks even, right? Because you're gaining life. You don't even care. You play some 1/1, you're gaining 3, and you're like, yeah, I'll give up one of those life, so my 1/1's a 2/3 or a 2/2 now or whatever, right? Like, I'm kind of into it. There's probably some uses for this card. Mutagen Man, Living Ooze, X green. It's a Ooze mutant. It has trample. Activated abilities of artifact tokens you control cost 1 less to activate. So obviously, where we talked about making the mutagen tokens that cost 1 to activate, you just could do that for free. However, this also does work for stuff like maps, clues only cost 1 instead of 2 now. Whenever it enters, you create X mutagen tokens. So so this is funny. So let's say you spend 5 mana. So you make 3 mutagen tokens, and you get a 2/3 trampler, but then you can just sacrifice those 3 tokens to make this into a 5/6. Though you could also use those 1/1s on other things if you wanted to. Prehistoric Pet. It's a 1 mana, 1/2 dinosaur ninja. Oh, 1 mana dinosaur. That's nice. This creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. You pay 1 and a white, return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. Activate only during your turn. So it's a 1 mana 1/2 that can't be blocked by anything except 1 power creatures. But you could return, like, if you're doing a blink deck, this is kind of cool. Gives you a chance to, like, keep reusing effects. I don't know what else we do with it just yet, but it's a cool card. Rat King, Verminister, 1 and a black for a 1/1 rat avatar. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent left the battlefield under your control this turn, create a 1/1 black rat creature token and put a +1/+1 counter on Rat King. Sacrifice 3 rats, return target creature card or all other cards with the same name as that card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Whew, I don't know what you do with this. If you like playing rats, though, this is kind of a cool thing. But it doesn't actually pump other rats or anything like that. It just lets you put a counter on this and create rats. So I'm not sure where I would want to play this just yet. Ravenous Robots, 1 in a black for a 2-1, or 1 in a black, 1 in a red, sorry, for a 2-1. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1-1 colorless robot artifact creature token. Pay 1 and tap. Creature tokens you control gain haste till end of turn. I think this card's very good. Just because you can play it in any of the decks that want to be playing artifact creatures. You're just getting free extra bodies. And then we already know there's stuff that cares about artifacts entering, that care about tokens and whatever. So this can go into a few different places. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a role player in some type of fun deck. Savante Romero times Exiles, 2 black for a 4/4 Demon Wizard with Trample. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this card. When you draw, then you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of counters on this card. This is interesting. So the first turn, you have a 4/4 Trample. You go to combat, you have a 5/5. You draw 1 card, lose 1 life. Then the next turn, you would put another counter on, so now you have a 6/6, but then you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. I can dig this. I don't know if, like, again, when we get to 5 and 6 mana cards, it gets a little difficult to figure out what creatures are worth it. But this one's at least interesting. And if I was already playing something like a Golgari counters list or some sort, this could probably fit into there. Southwind Avatar, 3 in a black for a 3/4 Snake Spirit Avatar with Death Touch. Whenever another creature you control dies, you gain life equal to its toughness. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. More life drain effects. Gain life, lose life. It does have Death Touch. It's fine. I mean, if you're playing that style of aristocrat sort of deck, this could work. There might just be more efficient ways to do that right now, but a 3/4 Death Touch with 2 abilities effectively is still pretty good. Transdimensional Bovine, 2 and a green for a 0/4 Ox Avatar. It has flying, and you tap to add 2 mana of any one color. You know what? I mean, weirdly, is an Ox Avatar, which we have a couple of different avatars in the set, so that may matter for stuff that cares about avatars. But tapping for 2 mana, like usually we were talking earlier, like a 3 mana creature that taps for mana, you're kind of like, eh. But an 0/4 that has flying and taps for 2 colors of mana, or taps for 2 mana, 1 color, right? Like, that's actually reasonable. Does it get played? I don't know. But if we're wanting to play something like a Dorian deck that cares about bigger toughness or not, or with the big turtle, right? This could fit perfectly in that type of deck. Turncoat Kanochi, 2 and a white for a 3/2. Mutant Ninja Fox with sneak of 2 white black. So first one we've seen with 2 different colors in the sneak cost. When this creature enters, choose target creature an opponent controls. Exile that creature until this card leaves the battlefield. If this creature sneak cost was played, instead exile the chosen creature. So you can play this straight up as a 3/2. You remove the thing until this dies. If you play it with sneak, the thing is just exiled permanently. So, yeah, cool. You know, like, just a playable card. We've seen this similar mechanics before. They usually don't get a lot of play, but there are some spots for it. Turtle Power, 2 and a green. It has flash. Turtles you control get +2/+2. All right. I mean, here's the other thing too. This could work with some variation of changelings as well, because those count as turtles. So that's something to keep in mind. Dimensional Exile. This is, I'm calling this one out because it's similar to other cards we've had that saw some amount of play. But 1 and a white, enchant basic land you control. When this aura enters, exile target creature an opponent controls until this aura leaves the battlefield. Granted, we have a lot of decks that care about playing a lot of multi-color lands, but there are some with just, you know, mono white or white green or something like that that do have a fair amount of basics that you could just play this and have a reasonable removal spell that's hard for some decks to get rid of. If you want something else for your frog deck, here's Genghis Frog. Blue and a green for a 1/3 with trample. Whenever this frog or another mutant you control enters, create a mutagen token. Not sure it works with the Bloomborough frogs that well, but I mean, you will be generating a bunch of mutagen tokens. You can put those plus and plus ones on things. Michelangelo's technique, 4 and a green for a sorcery. Wow, this better be good. It does have sneak of 3 and a green. Look at the top 8 cards of your library. Put up to 2 creature cards with total mana value 6 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Okay, that could be worth it, actually. Especially if you can do this for 4 reasonably and just go get 2 reasonable creatures. There's some stuff you could do with this. Mikey and Leo, Chaos and Order. 2 Selesnya mana, so just 2 mana 2/2. Whenever you put a counter on a creature you control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Yeah, this card, obviously quality. Again, if you care about plus 1/+1 counters, hell, blight counters, whatever, you'll just be drawing cards in the process. Like, this is solid. Northwind Avatar, 2, blue, red, 5 mana for a 5/5 dragon spirit avatar with flying. When this creature enters, if you cast it, you may put a card you own from outside the game into your hand. Usually for standard, that's going to be something from your sideboard into your hand. I mean, we can get back to a world where you're making a toolbox sideboard and this is playable. It's probably fine. Again, it's 5 mana. We already have some other dragons that are good. If you're playing the blue or Jeskai like control decks, we already have a 5 mana dragon in there that's good. So it might just be squeezed out because of other quality cards, but it's reasonable. Raphael and Leo, sibling rivals. 1 and 2 Boros mana, so 3 mana, 2/4. When it attacks, if it's the first combat phase of your turn, untap 1 or 2 target attacking creatures. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Yeah, 3 mana, 2/4, and get 2 combats? Why not? The Technodrome. 2 generic mana for a 3/3. Artifact creature construct with reach and trample. This creature can't attack or block unless it has 6 power or greater. Sacrifice another artifact, draw a card, put a plus and plus 1 counter on this. Yeah, this is fine, right? It just goes into the decks that are already playing artifact creatures or caring about sacrificing artifacts. You get to draw cards for doing it. You make a creature bigger. You also have some other cards, like we're seeing, like Chrome Dome and other things that just pump the power anyway. So yeah, this is probably fine. Taka and Razar, terrible 2s. 2 Rakdos mana, so 2 mana, 3/2. This spell can't be countered. It has menace. Whenever a player casts a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast it was less than its mana value, Taka and Razar deal 3 damage to that player. So basically, if somebody plays something with the sneak cost of 3, but the card costs 4, they take 3 damage. All right, nothing wrong with that. Also, there's times that people pay no mana, or they pay, 2 less because it was like airbent or something. So I'm pretty sure that would all qualify to deal extra damage as well. Dark Leo and Shredder, a white and a black for a 1/3, sneak cost of also a white and a black. Attacking ninjas you control have death touch. Whenever this card deals combat damage with player, create a 1/1 black ninja creature token. Then if you control 5 or more ninjas, that player loses half their life rounded up. Yeah, I'm going to lose a game or 2 to this card. I don't think it's outstanding, but it's a card you can definitely put into a very specific deck, and it'll be strong in there. Dawn and Wrath, Hard Science. 1 and 2 Izzet mana for a 2/4 menace. Whenever this attacks, the next non-creature spell you cast this turn has affinity for artifacts. That's interesting. How many, like, the thing is, I mean, it has menace, so attacking isn't the worst thing. But yeah, I don't know. This one, of the, like, combined cards we've seen, this one feels like the one you have to work the most for. Mikey and Don, Party Planners. 2 and 2 Simic mana. So you have 4 mana, 3/3. It does have Ward 2, so that helps. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You can play lands and cast mutant, ninja, or turtle spells from the top of your library. If you cast a creature spell this way, that creature enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Obviously, you're going to try to build with a theme on this one, trying to play as many mutants or ninjas or turtles as you can, but it's not bad. I mean, a 4 mana 3/3 isn't exciting, but it does have Ward 2, so it's hard to get rid of, and it does give you extra information looking top of your library, and potentially you get to play extra cards each turn. Party Dude, a 1 green class. When this class enters, each player creates a food. You can pay 1 and a green to level it up. Whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card. You can pay 4 and a green whenever 1 or more of your opponents are attacked. Up to 1 target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. This feels very convoluted. Like, we each get a food, and then I can level it up to maybe get something if you if you haven't already sacrificed your food. But I guess if there's a format full of artifacts tokens, then I guess then I guess you don't get to draw more cards. And then 5 is also a lot to level. And then a creature just gets XX equal to number of cards in her hand. But there's no guarantee we're gonna have a lot of cards in hand. This is a weird one. I feel like I'm underestimating this card for it being a rare. I probably am, honestly, and I'll end up building with it or something somewhere down the line. The Last Ronin, referenced here, 4 black green for a saga. Destroy all creatures, Chapter 1. Chapter 2, you mill 4, and when you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Chapter 3, whenever a creature you control attacks alone this turn, put 3 +1/+1 counters on it. It gains trample, lifelink, indestructible till end of turn. Okay. So a 6 mana board sweeper that gets you a card back from your graveyard and then potentially pumps up a creature the following turn. On the one hand, I don't hate this. I mean, I hate that every set has to have a board sweeper in it these days, most of the time 2 or 3. So that doesn't excite me. But in the times you do want a board sweeper in your creature deck, this is probably the card I'm going to play. Ground Chuck and Dirtbag. 4 green for an 8/8. So a 6 mana 8/8. Trample. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add green. There's no downside to this. It's just a 6 mana 8/8 with trample, and you get bonus mana. Yeah, okay. Michelangelo Weirdness to 11. 1 and a green for a 1/1. It enters, create a mutagen token. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on it instead. Yeah, this, another one. If you're already playing +1/+1 counters, this is obviously your jam. You get extra counters. Nothing to complain about on this. Broadcast Takeover. 2, red. Sorcery. Gain control of all artifacts your opponents control till end of turn. Untap them, they gain haste till end of turn. Yeah, the problem with this is it's just so situational, right? Unless you're giving your opponent a bunch of artifacts that you can do something with, there's no guarantee this card's going to do anything. Cool but rude. Whenever you attack, you may discard a card. If you do draw a card, you can level it up for 1 in a red. Whenever you discard a card, this deals 2 damage to each opponent. You can pay another 1 in a red to level up. When this class becomes level 3, search your library for a card, put it in your hand, shuffle, then discard a card at random. Yeah, this is fine. There's even builds of stuff where you're just discarding and drawing that you won't even care about attacking to discard, right? You might just play it to discard and deal 2. So yeah, this is a fine card. Will find a home somewhere. Mondo Gecko, 1 blue, 2/3, lizard mutant, pay 1. Discard a card. Until end of turn, Mondo Gecko becomes the color of your choice and gains hexproof from that color. Whenever Mondo Gecko deals combat damage to a player, draw a card for each color among permanents you control. I mean, okay, I guess. I mean, even in the decks where I'm playing like the ley line that makes everything every color, I don't know if I want this card. I mean, a 3 mana 2/3 that possibly gets me more cards, because it doesn't give you protection, it gives you hexproof. Your opponent could still block this. So like, yeah, I don't know. Not excited about this one, even with it being a mythic. Rinnet, Temporal Apprentice, 3 blue for a 4/3 human wizard with flash. When it enters, return each non-land permanent that entered this turn to its owner's hand. This is a little quirky and annoying. If your opponent had 2 or 3 tokens enter the battlefield or whatever, you're like, yeah, you know what? Why don't we just get rid of those and I'll have a 4/3. Not crazy outstanding, but just annoying enough that it might show up. The Cloning of Shredder, 4 green for a saga that Chapter 1 says exile target creature card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't legendary and is a mutant in addition to its other types. Chapter 2 and 3 say create a token that's a copy of a card exiled with this saga, except it isn't legendary and it's mutant. Okay, so this is kind of like a supercharged reanimation spell, right? Where you copy something in the graveyard, then that just stays exiled with this, and then the next 2 chapters you make another one, and they don't go away, they're just permanent tokens. So there's probably something sweet you could do with this card. Does Machines, 1 and a blue. When this class enters, mill 2 cards, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So mill 2, draw 2, discard 2. You can level it up for 1 and a blue. When this class becomes level 2, return 2 target artifact cards from your graveyard to your hand. And then you can pay 4 and a blue to level up. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, put 3+1/+1 counters on target artifact you control. If it's a creature, if it isn't a creature, it becomes a 0/0 robot in addition to its other types. Yeah, this is reasonable. This feels like it just goes in the deck that you're already doing the artifact stuff, right? You play it, you get to kind of filter your hand a little bit to get your best options. Then you start putting stuff on the battlefield. Maybe you level up, and you're like, okay, now everything's going to start becoming creatures every turn, which is cool. Sally Pride, Lioness Leader, 3 white for a 2/4 cat, mutant rebel. When this enters, create X/2/2 red mutant creature tokens, where X is the number of non-token creatures you control. When Sally Pride attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Alright, so if you have 3 creatures, you make 3 2/2 mutants. When she attacks, everything gets +1/+1. It's fine. It's cool that it's a cat. I think it'll show up maybe in some cat deck. Well, the problem is, cats can already play the Regal Caracal for 5, and you get extra bodies and lifelink, so you're probably not going to play like 6 5-mana things in that build, so this probably doesn't have a home right now. Triceraton Commander, XX white, Dinosaur Soldier, 2/2 with flying. When this creature attacks, dinosaurs you control, other than this creature, get +1/+1 and gain flying till end of turn. When this creature enters, create X/2/2 white dinosaur soldier creature tokens. You know, this isn't terrible. If you wanted a mana sink in some decks to be able to make like 3 2/2s, and then when you attack, they get +1/+1 and flying, like, there's probably a spot for a card like this. All right, we're coming into the home stretch, folks. I know this is a lot of cards in a long video, but we're trying to get them all in there. Leader's Talent, 1 and a white. It is a class, so whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. Okay, dig that. 2 and a white to level up. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had a counter on it, you gain 2 life. Cool. 3 and a white to level up. When you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Yeah, I dig this. If you care about +1/+1 counters, which we've already mentioned several cards from the set do, and several things already in standard do, yeah, bonus life, bonus counters, nothing to complain about on this. It's all costed appropriately. Leonardo Cutting Edge, 1 and a white for a 1/1 with sneak of just 1 white. It has lifelink. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Leonardo. Yeah, if you just want another one of those creatures for your life gain decks or whatever, this is fine. Leonardo's Technique, 3 and a white or sneak for 1 and a white. Return 1 or 2 target creature cards with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I like this card a lot. Very particular because it doesn't say, well, each creature can be mana value 3 or less. It's not total mana value 3, which is kind of nice. And it's 1 or 2. So you can, if you only have one thing, get it, but you can get 2 things. So yeah, this is a cool card. I think there's going to be some spots for a card like this for sure. Bebop and Rocksteady. 1 and 2 Golgari mana for a 3 mana 7/5? Okay, there has to be a downside, right? Whenever this card attacks or blocks, sacrifice a permanent unless you discard a card. But that's not even a huge downside. Like, you might want to discard cards, right? Again, if we mentioned earlier in the video, but you attack, discard a mayhem thing, play the mayhem thing, like, that's totally reasonable. And a 7/5 for 3 is huge. Casey Jones, Jury Rig Justicar, 1 in a red for a 2/1 with haste. When it enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal an artifact card from among them, put it into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. There's probably a home for this if it's an artifact heavy deck. It's 2 mana, 2/1 with haste, and you get a free card. That seems good. Raphael's Technique, 4 red, or half price, 2 in a red, for an instant. Each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards. Oh, well, okay. We haven't had a Wheel of Fortune effect in a while. Yeah, this people will want this card for sure. Crang, Mastermind, 6 blue, 1/4. Affinity for artifacts, so it's going to often cost less. Whenever Krang enters, if you have fewer than 4 cards in hand, you draw cards equal to the difference. So if you have 1 card, you would draw 3. And then Krang gets +1/+0 for each other artifact you control. Yeah, if I'm playing an artifact deck, you play Krang. Why not, right? Super Shredder, 1 in a black for a 1/1 menace. Whenever another permanent leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Super Shredder. Also could be used with Bebop and Rocksteady, right? You're like, I'm gonna attack, sacrifice a land, pump my Shredder, But this will be another card in the single card strategy stuff we'll probably do a video on, because there's lots of ways to use this. Turtles Forever, 3 and a white. Oh, that's cool. The artwork has 4 different generations of art style of Ninja Turtles. That's fun. It's an instant. Search your library and or outside the game for exactly 4 legendary creature cards you own with different names. Then reveal those cards. An opponent chooses 2 of them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and shuffle the rest into your library. All right, so you just basically search your deck, go find 4 dudes. Your opponent puts 2 into your hand, 2 back into your library. Yeah, that's fine. It's quality. You're going to get 2 cards, right? You search, get 2. Your opponent does something with it. I do like this in legendary build type decks, though, where you have 7, 8 different legends in the deck to pick from. So that's going to be kind of fun to see how this works out. Leonardo Sewer Samurai, 3 and a white for a 3/3. Oh, yeah, we saw this earlier. Oh, okay, that's a lot. I'm going to try to shrink this down so it's under an hour, but we covered all the rares, all the mythics in the set, all the stuff that got previewed today, even some of the uncommons, but we should be caught up. That is a massive day 1 for Ninja Turtles. Let me know what you're looking forward to, what cards kind of surprise you, and are there anything you're looking to play in your, not just standard decks, but even commander decks? But yeah, remember, like, subscribe, all that good stuff so you don't miss the rest of the stuff during preview season. And early access is next Wednesday. If you want to like, subscribe, do all the things that make the dings, you'll be able to hang out with us while we do it. But that's all I have you for now. We'll see you next time.